We're outside Anfield Road, the home of Liverpool Football Club, the centre really of world football, the world's most successful club, possibly, although Real Madrid could claim for that, Manchester United could challenge them, certainly one of the centres. And we're in Stanley Park, which separates Liverpool Football Club from Everton Football Club, another great old club whose home used to be Anfield Road here. So it's quite an historic setting in North Liverpool. I'm just going to reflect on the first half of the year 2020 and what a year it's been. The presidential election year. And what did we get hit with first? The coronavirus in early March, and the incredible panic that ensued over that. And there was Ferguson, Neil Ferguson, the government senior advisor, said the potential was for 2 million people to die from this coronavirus. We were looking forward to the Black Death, really. Repetition of the Black Death of 1383, when a third of the population of Britain was wiped out. People were really anxious about that coronavirus. I mean, because we live in the age of media saturation, both the mainstream media, the broadcasting media, the newspapers, the social media, everybody was so anxious that this new virus was going to come along and was going to devastate us. And people were wary of what they saw in China, first of all, in Wuhan, and then they saw in Iran. And we saw images of people dropping in the streets, places like Qom and Tehran. There was a big outbreak, so we were told. And then, of course, it went to Italy. It went to Milan. We found out that the Chinese workers had brought it into Milan, and they were spreading it around the north of Italy. So it was quite a terrifying situation, because from Italy it then came to the UK. And I remember being in London at the end of February in Dulwich College, where my friend has a son who attends that school. Some of their pupils had caught the virus in Italy, and they'd had to shut the school down. The fear that it was going to spread from the children to the adults. And of course then the government moved. For first we were going to have herd immunity. Boris Johnson said, just let it take its natural course. Then the panic button was pressed. And President Macron of France insisted that we go into lockdown. And the government fell into line with that and imposed incredible restrictions on the British people. Lockdown, we had to stay in as much as possible. We only allowed out once a day to exercise. People had to work from home. I mean, the people couldn't travel outside of the hometowns. I'd never seen anything like this in my life. You know, it was incredible. People just fell into line because the fear was so great. But then gradually, people began to realise that people weren't actually dying of it. And the people who were dying were very old people, mainly over 80s, who were on the edge of death anyway, and could easily have died of any other condition, and may well have died of another condition. They died with COVID, so we were told, but it wasn't tested. And so people became incredibly sceptical about what was going on. But the government had built these emergency hospitals and set up these thousands of ventilators, for people to absorb oxygen if required. And of course the Prime Minister himself caught it. That sort of intensified the whole national mood. But again, these hospitals that have been set up were not used. And although we were clapping the NHS every Thursday, we were finding out that the normal hospitals were empty. That patients, appointments had been cancelled. The A&Es, when nobody was turning up in A&Es, it was like there was people. It shows you how psychosomatic most illnesses are, that people were actually not turning up the A&Es. People weren't suffering with their medical conditions. People would stop going to their GP. And the whole thing started to unravel. And then people just got incredibly sceptical and began to realise that the virus did not affect children. People under 60 may get it but would recover. People over 60 are more vulnerable, but really the average age of death was 81. So it was a very specific age group that was really in danger with this disease. And of course, there are over 150 viruses circulating at any one time. So people over 81 are vulnerable to any virus. I mean, they're on the edge of death, really, aren't they? Their life has come to an end. So the coronavirus wasn't really making such an impact. And then basically the deaths that were being reported, people were becoming sceptical about them, and the number of deaths began to fall. And we know in Spain now there are no deaths being reported each day. In Italy it's down to single figures, and even in Britain now it's down to around 100 a day and falling rapidly. So the great fear, the great plague never materialised, and we shut our economy for almost 3 months, really for nothing. We should have carried on and just protected the vulnerable groups, but we wait to see what the economic damage will be. The government has spent billions upon billions financing this lockdown. They borrowed to the hilt, and there'll be a payback for that, of course, over time. But we're still in a sort of subdued lockdown. It's still happening. I mean, most schools have gone back now, but mainly primary schools. Many city centres are still ghost towns. Why is it lingering so long? Let's get back to normal and let's get over this. Now, of course, in America, the Democrat governors who really worsened exacerbated the situation by sending old people out of hospitals into nursing homes to spread the virus amongst the really vulnerable people in society, the over 80s. These Democrat governors in states like Michigan and New York are refusing, and have refused, to ease the lockdown. And when people protested about this in a very civilised manner with stars and stripes, they were met with the full wrath of the media and the state police force, and basically were accused of putting everybody's lives in danger. But now we've had the protest in America, and the whole sort of artificial situation, the bubble, has burst, and people now realise that this coronavirus is a phantom and it's over and it's time to move on. But that's just the first shot in what's happened in 2020, because having failed to weaponise the coronavirus and use it to destroy Trump, the globalists and the Democrat Party have moved on to their second agenda, to stir up the black population, to stir them into rebellion against Trump, provoke a race war in an attempt to sort of besmirch his presidency and to encourage the blacks to be hostile to Trump. Because Trump was making big inroads with the black population. He served the blacks very well as president. But the Democrats are using their traditional cards now. Black Lives Matter, they used to before the last presidential election. Suddenly they were weaponizing every conflict in society, and we've seen these horrendous scenes in America. As coronavirus has disappeared from our TV screen, we're getting images of rioting and violent attacks, and it's very distressing, but it's all to do with ramping up the situation ahead of the presidential election. It's all politics, and we look and we think, what's going to come next? What does the second half of 2020 hold out for us now? Because as we get closer to this election, the Democrats have got no policies, they've got no appeal to America, so their only strategy is to create chaos and crises, and they're proven very effective at that because they've got the media on board. It's not a fair sort of playing field. So you just wonder what's next up the sleeves from Democrats. What are they going to do to try and bring down Trump? Because Trump is gunning for them. I mean, these investigations into the Russian hoax are exposing Obama and Biden, and they're conspiring to undermine his presidency using illegal means. So there's a lot of drama ahead in the second half of the year. promises to be a real nail biter. And this is the essence of politics. Events, dear boy, events. What's coming next? The drama unfolds, and there's going to be a lot more drama before November the 3rd, less than 150 days to the presidential election. So we look forward to the second half of the year.